Oh, I actually made that slide and didn't recognize it. So here's what we're going to do today. Just going to take a few minutes to wrap up. This is the last speaker, so that's the good news. And I speak fast, so that's even better news. I'll get through this pretty quickly. I'm just going to give a few pointers on some things. We decided to close with some keys to success for all of us for global entrepreneurship, since that's why we're here. So I'm going to just give you 3 things and just take like 10 minutes of your time to do that. I'm going to start just really quick to put context to this. I will tell you my background. I have an engineering degree. So I went away to university because everybody told me to. My parents and everybody else said, you should go get an engineering degree so you can get a good job in a good company at some good salary. So I went and did that because everybody said to do that. By the way, I could not afford to go to university to get an engineering degree, so I funded my education by starting a company while I was in college. So I didn't know the word entrepreneur at all. But I definitely understood what problems were. And my problem was I want a degree at this university and I can't afford it. So my solution was I'm going to start a company so I can pay for this degree. So starting the company wasn't the point. Getting the diploma was. That was my first startup. I got a corporate job in a big engineering firm that I did not love. I don't think they loved me either, so it's fine. But it didn't go real well. I did it because my parents said, go get a good job at a good salary, which was fine. And I had everything except a good life because I hated my job every single day while I was working there. So I didn't stay. I quit. I guess that whole experiment was a failure. It did not work for me. I left. Everybody was angry at me because I had a good job and a good salary, and I just walked out. Again, because what I wanted was a good life. A salary is part of your life. A job is part of your life. But if that's your whole life, you have a much bigger problem. And I wanted to have a good life. So I quit because I wanted freedom. And I wanted to design the life that I wanted to have, which is how I became an entrepreneur. But I'm going to tell you, part of what we're going to talk about today is I never just arbitrarily said I want to be an entrepreneur. What I like doing is solving problems. And I saw problems in the world around me like everybody in this room does. But the difference between entrepreneurs and everybody else is we don't go home and complain. We stay there and solve it when we see a problem. So I became a problem solver for a living. I have been doing that for my entire career. I've been doing startups ever since then. I only worked the corporate job for like 3 years. So I was only 20-something years old, and I've been doing startups ever since. Like I said, I've done 8 of them. I'll only mention 2 of them just to give context. The very first one, but I told you that it's about problem solving. And I'm going to come back to this in a minute. The very first one was I was 20-something years old and unemployed. Like I just said, everybody was angry at me. I had no money and no food in the refrigerator. And I was standing in line at an airport to go talk to somebody about a business idea. And when you're unemployed, buying an airline ticket's expensive. And it took an hour to get to the front of the check-in line, and I missed the flight, which was a very expensive problem and very upsetting. So I stood there thinking, it's ridiculous that you stand in a line for an hour to check into a flight when all they do is look at your ID and then push print and print you a boarding pass. So that Friday, I started my first company. We invented those. We designed, patented, and installed and sold to airports all over the world the check-in kiosks. When you go to When you go to an airport now and check in, there's a kiosk because it made no sense to stand in line. That was our first product, and our first startup did very, very well. Later, this was the 5th company that I was part of launching. In the United States, it's Priceline. Here, you probably know it as Booking.com. It's the same company. The Priceline group is Priceline and Booking in Asia. If there are people here from Asia, you know us as Agoda.com. It's all one company. But the only reason I bring that up is just to point out that this was like everybody else in here and all the startups we just had on stage pitching, this was a startup with a small group of people. When this company was launched, Priceline originally, a small group of people trying to solve a problem with a focus of the things we're going to talk about here in a minute. And today, this company does business in 200 countries and territories. And I think Ali might have mentioned that before, but as insane as it seems to me, this company is now worth $87 billion. And we started this on a table. Every single successful company starts with you guys. A small group of entrepreneurs with a big dream and willing to do the work. So I just point that out because people look and say, well, you guys have a multi-billion-dollar company. We didn't. We started it just like the people in this room, and it became that thing. So since then, after 8 startups, I just have been very blessed by, somebody said to me one day, they said, Jeff, your life is like this adventure. And I said, if my life's an adventure, then this adventure was brought to you by entrepreneurship. Because the only reason I get to do the things that I do is because I chose to be an entrepreneur. I chose to design my own future and create the path that I wanted to live by solving problems in the world to get to the places that I want to go. So I wanted to give back after having been very blessed. We did tech companies. We even started an entertainment company doing movies and music and stuff. In fact, last year, we applied all of our business entrepreneurship principles to launching our own music company. And last year, I got like one of the coolest moments ever in my life. Last year, we won a Grammy. So I got to stand on the Grammy red carpet thinking, what on earth am I doing here? Thank you. And I'm going to tell you, the answer is entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is a tool set and a discipline for making things happen. That's why we are here. We apply that to everything we do. I wanted to give back the blessings I received. I've had way more than my fair share. So I made a commitment we're all going to ask all of you to do. I'm on the board of GEN, and on behalf of all of GEN and all of our board and all of these countries, everybody here should be committed to the same thing. Turn around, grab the hand of some entrepreneur behind you and pull them forward. You being an entrepreneur is a privilege, not a job. My friends got to go to work. I get to go to work because I do stuff that I love doing. So you pay that back by helping somebody else do that. My commitment to that, I took off in 2012. I'll just tell you really quickly, and then I'll get into the 3 points I want to share with you. In 2012, I said, I'm going to take this year off to give back to the field of entrepreneurship by helping entrepreneurs. And I did an experiment. I said, I didn't tell anybody. I said, for 1 year, I'm not going to say no to anybody that asks me for help. Anybody in the world that calls and says, will you help me? The answer will be yes for a year. So that means I won't make any money. I won't go to my office. I don't know where I'll be tomorrow. In fact, one of the first calls I got was an email from a 19-year-old young man in Senegal, in West Africa, who said, things are pretty tough in the village. Could you help? And I was on a plane to Senegal, and it was on. I said I was going to do that for a year, and I've been doing it since 2012. So this is year 5 that I have been flying country to country to meet you guys. Thanks. I've been sitting with entrepreneurs in every country and sitting with the ecosystem and trying to figure out, how do we all do this, right? How do we all get to live the life we want to live and design the future we want to have? And you already know my answer is entrepreneurship. So what I'm going to share with you today is, after visiting all these countries, I think we figured out the other day, we've been filming a lot of this. We've been filming amazing people, which is entrepreneurs. They're here, right? They're with us at this event, and they're here in South Africa and in all of your countries. We've been finding amazing people all over the world, and in the process, we figured out that we have collected the stories of entrepreneurs from 100 countries. So now I'm going to share with you, after looking at entrepreneurship all over the world, I'm going to share with you just 3 things in the interest of time that I think are some of the keys to successful for all of us. Jonathan asked me, talk about the future path for entrepreneurship. What do we all do as a group going forward? So I picked just 3 things that I want to share with you guys. And here's the first one. The first one is, I actually thought that I was selling entrepreneurship. When I took off to go around, my question to these people, a lot of people, was, who wants to be an entrepreneur? And here's what it turns out, guys. We're asking the wrong question. We're starting at the wrong level. When you ask people, do you want to be an entrepreneur? I can't tell you how many people say no. And I say, why don't you want to be an entrepreneur? And you know what they say to me? They say, well, I don't know how to build apps. I said, wait, who said anything about apps? And they said, well, I don't really have an idea for a website. And I said, well, who said anything about a website? And then they say, well, I'm just not trying to make money. That's not all I care about. Who said any of those things? You know what happened? Entrepreneurship got a bad name. And I'll blame the U.S., because the U.S. was glorifying the money in entrepreneurship. And name the famous tech entrepreneurs in the U.S. They're all tech, right? Whether it's Zuckerberg or Steve Jobs. So we created a bad impression. A lot of people think when you say the word entrepreneur, it's some tech thing and it's about money or business. So the problem is, people deselect themselves. They say, no thanks, not interested. It's because we're asking the wrong question. So here's what I've learned, what we need, what I propose. Quit asking people if they want to be an entrepreneur and what business they want to launch. Ask them instead, what kind of life do you want? Ask them instead, what do you dream about? What do you see as the future of your country? How do you want your country, how do you want your kids to grow up? right? And what do you dream about? What do you want to do with your life? If we start there and we ask someone to describe the future they want, guess what it turns out? It turns out that the best way to get there, to design the future, to be part of the future of your country and build the future of your country is entrepreneurship. I'm going to divert and tell you just a really fast story. I went to Egypt right after the revolution, and it was the White House sent me, and I was pitching entrepreneurship, like a peddler with a cart. Entrepreneurship, who wants some, right? Just come up and get your entrepreneurship. Nobody wanted any. It was like, they were kind of like, they were dodging bullets and saying, if you don't mind, right in the middle of revolution, could you call back after dinner, right? I just felt stupid. So I stopped the cart, and I just want to tell you this. And there was a young Egyptian woman, and I said, look, sorry, I tried to convince you to be an entrepreneur. And I said, tell me about your life. Egypt just had its revolution. What now? And she said, come with me. And we walked down to Tahrir Square, and she pointed at a place on the concrete, and she said, right here. And I said, right here what? And this woman said, right here is where I held my brother while he bled to death the night of the revolution. And I just stood there, my heart stopped. And she said, oh, Mr. Hoffman, can I show you my startup? And I said, whoa, can I catch my breath? And I said, how do you go from that to this? And she said, you don't understand. I said, I don't. And she said, that's why we did this. She said, we risked our lives, gave our lives, and fought a revolution so that we could design the Egypt of our children's future, that we could design the next generation. And then I said, okay, now we got to talk entrepreneurship, because you got to do this yourself. That's what entrepreneurship is. It's the skill set of self-determination. So my first point, again, is entrepreneurship isn't the goal. Let's stop selling that. The future, self-determination, designing the life that you want. Ask people those questions and understand that entrepreneurship is just the way to get there. I wrote this down after traveling the world, that when I thought the goal was entrepreneurship, this is written on my wall at home. Entrepreneurship is the shovel you use to dig a path to the brighter future. If you don't have a direction for your brighter future, there's no sense picking up a shovel. Entrepreneurship is just the shovel. But our job in this room, somebody said, what do you do for a living? And I said, I pass out shovels to as many people as I can, and I teach them how to use them. That's actually my job now, is teaching people how to use shovels to dig their own future. And the reason that I use that shovel analogy is because it's hard work. Designing the future is hard work. Being an entrepreneur is hard work. But if we focus on what people are trying to do with their life, entrepreneurship becomes the natural fit. So that was the first thing that I wanted to share with you guys. Let's start selling self-determination instead of entrepreneurship. You know what it makes me think of? If you went to 17 years of medical school to be a surgeon, that's actually meaningless. It doesn't mean anything until you actually save one life. The first surgery you do, right? It's about the surgery and saving the life, not the fact that you went to medical school. So entrepreneurship is just the training and the tool set and the shovel to dig a path to something that matters. So this is what I want to talk about. Focus on solving the problem. As I look at entrepreneurial support programs and ecosystems all over the world, a lot of people, again, are talking about the process, the 17 years of training in medical school. And they're focusing on all that. So we're saying to make an entrepreneur. But I always ask the question, for what? What is the entrepreneur? Again, if I go to medical school and never do surgery, that was pretty much a waste of everybody's time. So what is the actual goal? Why are we creating entrepreneurs? Why are all of you building gen networks and ecosystems for entrepreneurship in your community? Just to create entrepreneurs? No. We're doing this to solve problems. If we call people entrepreneurs and give them certificates and they don't make the world better in any way, they don't launch anything, they don't move economies, they don't create jobs, we're wasting our time in this room. It's all about the problem, and that's one of the things I don't see enough focus on. Too many entrepreneurs are trying to do too many things, and instead of focusing on getting something done. So I'm going to tell you this. And entrepreneurs tell me, man, I got 6 different ideas. And then I see even you guys, the entrepreneurial ecosystem people, that are supporting them, setting them up to work on all these different things. But I'm going to be honest with you. I've gone to so many places around the world where what I see is nothing getting done. We're all in meetings, we're all in rooms, we're all learning, we're all talking, and the world's not getting better. Now, this is the exception, not the rule. But we need to fix this problem. And the reason why is too many people trying to do too many things and not focusing on getting something done. I always tell entrepreneurs this: Win a gold medal at one thing. Quit doing. When an entrepreneur says, Jeff, I got 6 ideas, I say, good, throw out 5 and let's pick the best one. You can't be a champion of 6 things at a time. You have to pick one thing and win a gold medal at it. Find the problem in the world that you're going to solve, the business you're going to launch, the product that you're going to create, the reason for it, but have the discipline to tune everything out. And that's what I'm not seeing enough of. I'm going to tell you an example. I showed you that first company where we created the kiosks for airports and for airlines. When we were starting that company, I was working along one day. I could not sleep. All I could think about was that machine. And I could dream about the first day you went in the airport and all the lines were gone and people were walking up and getting their own boarding pass. I could not sleep. I thought about that every single night. I had a friend, I'm an engineer, I don't know finance. So I asked a friend of mine who's in finance. I said, could you just come by after your job once a week? I'll pay you in dinner and just do my finances. He was in the office one day. He said, Jeff, I have good news and bad news. I said, what's the good news? He said, I was mentioning what you're building to a wealthy friend of mine. He's an investor and he wants to give you money. I said, that sounds like good news. What's the bad news? He said, dude, you don't have a bank account. And I said, yeah, I've been busy building this thing, and I don't really have time for that. And I said, just go get me a bank account and take the check. And he said, I would, but there's another problem. And I said, what? And he said, Jeff, you don't even have a company. And I said, okay, look, I don't have time for these details. I just want to build this machine. So what am I telling you guys? If you are the entrepreneur, nothing matters but the solution. And if you're not the entrepreneur, if you're somebody in here that helps the entrepreneur, your goal is to clear the path so they can go build that thing. Okay? Thank you. That's what we are here to do. I needed a support structure around me because all I dreamed of every minute was solving this problem. That's what we do in this room. Focus on the gold medal thing that you are trying to build. And by the way, stop trying to save the world on the first day. Save your neighborhood first. I see these entrepreneurs because it happens that our company grew into this company that does business all over the world. I see people on day one that start telling me, they have a PowerPoint, and they're telling me, well, once we launch it here in South Africa, then we're going to go to all of, we're going to go, to all the sub-Saharan Africa, then we're going to go to North Africa, then we're going to go across to Europe. They're already talking about their global plan, and they don't have one single product. They have not printed one single boarding pass yet. I'm not telling you you shouldn't try to grow your products globally, but you can't do that if you can't even make it work right here in Joburg. Okay? Save your neighborhood first. Show what your skills are. Show that you can solve a problem. And guess what happens then? The world comes to you. We built those printers. I was sitting in my office, and those aren't products that save the world. I'm just using this as an example. And KLM, Royal Dutch Airline, I had to look it up. I didn't even know what it was. I'd never been anywhere. Called me. Said, may I help you? And they said, we heard about your product, which was in one airport in the U.S. Somebody saw it. And they said, could you bring it to Europe? If you solve the problem really well by being really focused where you live, the world will find out and you can spread out for there. But don't try to save the whole world at once. Go win a gold medal in something and prove your stuff where you are. Pick the one thing. How do you find your gold medal? What is the one thing that you can be best at? Think long and hard about it. I see people that are launching products or solving problems in industries where they have no experience, no relationships, right? There's tons of competition, whatever it is. Try to find your space in the world. We always tell people, we always call that finding your golden purpose. It's the day you wake up. I'm going to tell you something. That story, that company with the ticket printers, when we had our first travel technology company, I was in my office one day, and these mergers and acquisitions people, by the way, I didn't know what M&A was either. I had to look that up. I'm an engineer. These people came in my office, and I was thinking they spent more money on their suits than I've spent on my entire company so far. And I said, what can I help you with? And they said, we want to buy your company. And I said, for what? And they said, millions of dollars. And you know what I said? I said, no thanks. And they said, why? And I said, because right now, my life is perfect. I don't want you to mess up my life, and the money would probably mess it up. Every day I can't wait to get up. Every day I can't wait to go to work. Every day we're building product. Customers are calling us. They're happy. I said, I finally am where I am supposed to be in life. That's the advice I'm giving you. When you wake up in the morning and you say, this is where I'm meant to be, that's where you should stop. Until you feel that way, it's okay to say, this startup wasn't it. This idea wasn't it. Find the one where you can be the best, where every day you can't believe you get to do this for a living. When you get there, that's where you're supposed to be. So think about that a little bit instead of forcing it and trying to build solutions in industries and companies and things that you don't even know. The next point that I said on there was, and this is just really important as well, when you are building your business, okay? And we talked all about, the whole point of this section is solve the problem. And this is important because a lot of times I see people looking around at the people around them and saying, well, I'll tell you what happened. I called an entrepreneur recently, and he said, can I call you back? I said, what's up? And he said, I have to find something for John to do again. And I said, okay, every part of that sentence is wrong. Find something for John to do, and again, no. Your job is to design your business from the objectives. Everything you do looks at solving the problem. So everybody in my office, I'm looking at that and saying, how is she helping me get boarding passes printed at airports? And anybody and anything that's in your world while you're doing that, in your business that doesn't do that, you can't have those. So you can't say, well, I hired my friend and she did a bad job, so I'll just find something else for her to do. You know what? If you have a business where you're finding things for people to do, you're running an adult daycare center, okay? That is not a business. People drop their adults off and you create activities for them. That's daycare. If you're running a business, everything you do is focused on how does this help me print tickets at the airport? So I want you to think about that. Whatever problem you're solving, everything you do and everyone in your sphere during that time has to be contributing to that, or they shouldn't be there. And I said this already, if this isn't the problem you're really passionate about, go do something else with your life. If you're trying to convince yourself that you're excited about, in fact, if I have to ask you, are you excited about this? And you have to answer, I already know the answer. I should have seen it from the beginning. When you see Ayanda come on stage, she does broadcast for a living. Do you question whether she loves being on stage and broadcasting? Are you kidding? It just flows out of her, the energy, because she is in the place she is meant to be. All of us need to find that. And if you're not there, keep on looking. Focus everything you do on solving the problem. And I just want to say this again. All the entrepreneurial work that we do all over the world is worthless unless we actually solve problems. In the end, entrepreneurs have to fix something and make it better, or all the rest of it is talk. So I put on there results, results, results. Because the difference between us entrepreneurs and everybody else is everybody complains, but we fix it. Everybody else goes home and complains. We stay there and fix the problem. So everything should be focused on results. And I put this because it's obvious for the entrepreneur. Every day, my job is everything and everyone around me better be helping me print boarding passes in airports, or I don't have time to talk to you right now, okay? I stay focused on the solution at all times, but I'm going to say something that I think some of the people in the support structures haven't thought of. If you work for a support organization and you're not the entrepreneur, I want you to ask yourself this. Whatever products or services you are delivering to entrepreneurs, how are they helping them solve the problem? Is the class you teach, is the mentoring you give, whatever it is you do, is everything you do going to help me get to those boarding passes and get printers in airports? If it's not, I want you guys to rethink what you do too. We only succeed if we get products to market. So everything you do should be helping that. And if it's not, maybe we should refocus some of our efforts, because I see these entrepreneurial things. I'm going to tell you something. I've gone into some accelerators around the world. And when I walked out, I thought, wow, that's sad that they spent 3 months there because they got no closer to building the product. None of the focus of that accelerator that I visited was on actually getting the product out the door. That's all that matters in the end. Let's stay focused on that. The last part I want to talk about is this. Here's what I think, and this is why I love this event every year, GEC, right? Delegates from 170 countries. We have an opportunity to share best practices and meet each other. And I want to make this really, really clear. When I do television, they always say, what's the most important resource for entrepreneurs and startups? And they always say funding. And I always say, not at all. Money is not the scarcest resource on this planet by a long shot. Talent is. Okay? Financial capital, I know many, many people who can write a check, and I have to tell you how infrequent it is that I find rock star human beings in the world. Talent, human capital, is the thing that's scarcest. So you need to be looking for it all the time. But guess what? It's here. It's in this room. It's in this network. That's the whole reason we have Jen, is to connect ecosystems around the world so that we can all find and share talent and find and share business best practices. But this amazes me. First of all, when you come to this event, any event, By the way, anywhere you are, you should be talking to everybody. And it makes me sad when I see people come in their delegation. So you have 5 people from your country. Who do you eat with? You ate breakfast with your people you traveled with. Who do you have lunch with? The people you traveled with. Guys, you're missing a huge opportunity. Some of the most brilliant people on the planet that could solve your problem, you didn't even invite them to lunch. Quit spending time with people you already know when you're at events like this, and walk up to complete strangers and say, let's share our stories, let's have lunch. We have to build a network of talent. And when you meet people, take notes. When you're done, write down, she absolutely understands African banking. Right? Write down the gold medal talent of every person that you met so that your network grows. But then more important, as you build that catalog, is connect them. So the one thing that every entrepreneur is wishing they had was, I wish I knew the president of that grocery store chain. I wish I knew somebody at that bank. I wish I knew somebody here. Entrepreneurs need connections to be successful. And so we have to keep building our network and connecting everybody. I think that all the people we need to solve every problem in the world are already out there. They just don't know each other yet, and they're not working together yet. So the more that every one of us, connects people, if you're the entrepreneur, the more people you meet, the more chances you have of finding that one brilliant person that you were missing. There was the difference between you and success. Right? And if you're part of the ecosystem, again, your job is to connect for them. You have an entrepreneur that's struggling and you say, wow, when I was in Johannesburg, I met this woman that knows this and that. Connect people and catalog your network so people know that. Reach out to people. This is pretty much for the entrepreneurs, though. Reach out to people. If there's someone in the world that you don't know that you think could help you, reach out. I'm amazed that in fact, that story that I got for you, that I told you, that very first entrepreneur, Mustafa, the guy from Senegal, the first guy that called me, emailed me. Let me tell you how his email started. It said, "Dear Mr. Hoffman, I know you'll never read this, and I know you'll never respond." And I got to tell you, it was on. Okay? As soon as an email started that way, I said, wait, you didn't even give me a chance. And when I showed up, and he saw my TED Talk online and just emailed me through the TED website. And when I showed up in Senegal, he said, "Oh my God, what are you doing here?" And I said, you asked. Okay? Sometimes the solution is the simple one that no one ever thinks of. You think that person won't ask, so nobody asks. And in fact, there might be somebody out there that has a reason they want to support you, but you didn't even ask them. Reach out to people that you don't know. Be engaged, and I'm just going to close with one slide after this. Be engaged in the world around you. Somebody said to me one day, said, "Man, you're so lucky." And I went home thinking, I felt bad because that made it feel like I never did any work. But I was thinking this, I'm not lucky, I'm engaged. And what does engaged mean? My whole life, I get out, I go places, right? If somebody says, "Hey, we're going to this conference," and you're not even in that industry, sometimes I just go. Why are you going to the banking conference, Jeff? You don't do banking. Who knows what I might learn and who I might meet? The more places you go, the more people you meet, the more things you do outside of your industry and outside of your comfort zone, the more likely you are to stumble upon not only people, but ideas and opportunities. So the most successful entrepreneurs or people I've met anywhere in the world are the ones that seem to be the most engaged. Right? I'm almost never at my desk. Sometimes people say, "Jeff, you guys have had more than one company that was successful. Where do the ideas come from?" You know where they don't come from? Sitting at your desk. You know where else they don't come from? Sitting at your couch with a glass of wine in your hand. You know where they do come from? The rest of the world. Get up, get out, get engaged in the world, meet people, go places, and your odds of stumbling across brilliance are much, much higher. So I'm going to close with this, that I'm going to challenge you guys to do with the rest of the time that you're here. And you should commit, at least 3 people. I want you to do this. I want you to have something ready to write with, and I want you to find strangers, people you haven't met yet, and I want you to walk up and ask each other these 3 questions. Promise me somebody in here will do this. I want you to walk up to somebody and say, "What is your story?" And they answer what their story is. Ask them, what gold medal are you trying to win? What is the problem you're trying to solve? And then ask them the 3rd question, what do you need help with? And then you go. And by the time we leave here, if enough of you ask each other these 3 questions, connections will be made. You say, "Wow, I didn't even know you were working on that." Of course you didn't. You've never spoken to me before. If you speak to me and ask me what I'm working on, what problem I'm solving, what gold medal I'm chasing, you might say, "Geez, I actually know somebody that I need to introduce you to." We connect solutions and people together, but only if we know what they need. So I want you to commit to asking each other these 3 questions. So write them down, walk up to each other, and write down the answers. And as you build that network, you will find far more people that can help you and far more contribution that you can make. I will say this, every company that I ever built, on day 1, I already had my roster. I already knew who was going to play goalie, who were my strikers. I knew all the people because I'd already met them somewhere. Every time I needed talent, the scarcest resource on the planet, I had this list, and I said, I'm just going to call her, that girl that I met in Turkey. I need her. Build your network, but commit to asking these questions to the people in this building while you are here today. And I just want to say this. Our goal in entrepreneurship, somebody said to me, well, Jeff, what exactly are you trying to do? And I said, we're trying to make a dent in history. Right? All of us in this room, wouldn't it be cool to look back at South Africa 10 years, whatever it is from now, and say, all those good things that changed here, I helped do that. We did that. We can only do it together, but I don't care where you live. Don't you want to be part of that legacy? Don't you want to be looked back and say to your children and your grandchildren, the place we live is better because I was an entrepreneur, because I addressed the problems, because I fixed things. I didn't accept things the way they were. I didn't go home and complain. I made it better. That's what we're here to do. So let's do it. Let's all go out and make a dent in history. Thank you guys very much.